Cashflow Quadrant, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about it, is the only four ways that we make money in our society. In
That's
our
right.
society, there's four ways to bring in income into our society.
Welcome to the Good Life.
All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got Coach Kabi here in the building. Say what's up, Coach.
What up, though? No.
You were good when you faded out. It was working. But then once you hit the buzzer, nothing. Nothing.
Can't hear the buzzer, huh?
I got it in my TikTok. I got it in Instagram. Not on
Well,
here.
maybe it's just for those folks then.
That's who it's for. There we go.
That's right.
There we go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. The Good Life, where we talk about all things health and wealth. We appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you for joining us here on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, in our Facebook group, the Health and Wealth for Busy Professionals. We appreciate every single one of you that continue to tap in with us and allow us to be one of the sources for your health and wealth information. Coach, how's your week going, man?
Week is fantastic, man. I'm excited to be here on another great show. Give the people what they want, give them what they need. Yeah, man, I'm great. How about you?
Life is good, man. Life is good. As always, family's healthy, business is rocking and rolling. More people need financial help than ever. Calendar is booked. We're getting out. The weather is getting cold. It actually snowed a little bit today, huh?
Wow.
Got a little bit of snow on November 1st. Those of you that are
Ooh.
watching us live, it's November 1st. You might be catching this on the recording, but it's November 1st, first day in November, and we got some snow up here in the Northeast Pennsylvania side of things. Didn't stick, not much landed and like stayed on the ground, but hey, it officially is winter. I know it's been winter for a little bit, I guess, right? But like, or maybe not.
I thought
It's
it was
kind
still
of,
fall.
yeah, it actually is still fall, but like it feels like winter today. Today, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome.
Y'all can have that.
Shout out to
No,
everybody.
sir.
Shout out to everybody in Southern California that like it never rains. Tony. It never rains in Southern California. That's right. That's right. Let's what's up in Detroit, man? Let's dive right in. What's going on in the world of Michigan and Detroit? Anything?
A few things. The question is, what are we gonna highlight? All right, what are we gonna highlight?
Lions had a big win yesterday.
Yeah, you saw that, right?
Or 2 days ago, I guess. But yeah.
Everybody thought the Lions had fallen off from that embarrassing loss. But see, this is what people don't understand about the heart of a champion. So I'm going to let you know. The heart of a champion is only developed when one goes through adversity. It's beaten to a pulp. There's nothing left. There's no hope. Nobody's coming to save them. And they reach down deep and they pull from the depths. They snatch from the jaws of defeat.
Amen.
Victory. Woo! That one took one out of me.
It did. It's okay. Listen, I can understand your passion for the Detroit Lions. They had a great game, and hey, listen,
it was great. You know,
what are they like 5-2, 6-2 now, something like that.
It almost pulls from me a tear.
No tears needed, man. No tears needed. This is joyful times. You should be excited about your fellow mates from Detroit. But there's some other Michigan news also that's really important that I think we should be talking about.
We don't need to talk about that.
No, I think we need to talk about it. Like this, Ann Arbor, that's where they are. Ann Arbor's got a little scandal on their hands here.
What scandal?
Little scandal action. Those that don't know, Connor Stalions Stallions, I think his name. He's an
You don't
off-field
know him,
analyst. He's an off-field analyst. Has been at the center of a sign stealing scandal.
huh?
You heard me. A sign stealing scandal after he allegedly purchased tickets to more than 30 games in 11 different Big Ten schools over the past 3 seasons. He works for the University of Michigan, by the way, right? That's over there in Ann Arbor.
We don't
Uh,
claim him.
on top of that, Central Michigan is now investigating whether or not Stallions went undercover on their sidelines. I don't know if you guys see this. He possibly went on their own, like disguised himself as an assistant coach for a completely different team to go and start stealing some of their signs. This was during a CMU and Michigan State game. Is this a? I don't think this is a good reflection for your Michigan counterparts, for your fellow state mates. What you got to say about this one, man?
Listen here, Christopher. What we have going on here is clearly the case of a rogue, shall we call him previous member of the Michigan family. Um, obviously, we don't condone these sort of activities, allegedly. We don't even know if it happened. In fact, those photos, we know we're in the age of AI, and a lot of things can be augmented. I don't want to toss blame or deflect from the conversation at hand. We hold ourselves to the highest standards. And if there is something here that comes out of the investigation, we will comply to the fullest extent. However, we have done no wrong, and we don't even know Connor.
You don't know him. So you're just going to dismiss that you even have any affiliation with this guy. I'm sure some other people on the Michigan.
What's his name?
I'm sure some of the higher ups at Michigan are probably saying the same thing. Like we don't know who this guy is.
Oh, well, what guy?
But listen. In all honesty, they knew what's going on. Michigan knew what's going on. Mr. Harbaugh, you knew what was going on. Sitting in those coaches' meetings, this random guy Connor starts raising his hand and saying, "Hey, this is what they're going to run next week. This is how we prepare for it."
That never happened.
You're not asking like how you got that information, Connor? Where'd that come from? Exactly. You can play dumb all you want.
No information. Connor did a few. In fact, we don't even know Connor.
You can play dumb all you want, guys, but you got a little bit of a scandal here on your hands, and I'm curious to see how this plays out. Either way, still love to Detroit. I mean, this is Michigan football, right? This is Ann Arbor. This is over here. So still love to Detroit, but Ann Arbor.
And from this as well, we will, once again, we've been tested and we'll show ourselves strong.
We hope that you do.
That's right.
Anyways, y'all, thanks so much for joining us. As always, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. Again, if you want more, catch us over on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all your favorite streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. By the way, if you join our Facebook group, the Health and Wealth for Busy Professionals, we go live there every single week. That's where you get more access to Kabi and I. We also put our episodes over there. You can chat with us. We host cool workshops, give you insider tips, all that good stuff. Remember, it's not just a group, it's a community for self-improvement. So join and live the good life, y'all. That's really what we want you to do. So get over there to that Facebook group and come be in fellowship with us. Come be in community with us. Kabi knows he talks about this a bunch, Coach, like the pillar of community is so important to our development, right? Whether it's in the health side, even whether it's in the wealth side, but community is incredibly important. Speak on that for a minute about how important community is and why, joining the group and getting close to us is important.
This is oftentimes we know what to do, right? That's usually not the case. Sometimes it is. And of course, community is important there as well because they can help guide you along the way. Or give you a proven blueprint, which can save a lot of time, money, effort, energy, etc. But most of the time we know what to do or have a good idea, but it's actually the execution of it. And I think this is another place where community comes in is very important, because you can play, one, you have people headed in the same direction. Two, you can play off of or receive the blueprint of somebody who's already done it. And three, you can get the support in terms of answering questions along the way, and also just sharing in your wins and losses. It makes them that much easier to bear in one case, and that much sweeter in another case. So I'll say that.
That's huge. That's huge. And that's why we want you to be in community with us. We want you to be able to join, have conversations, ask questions, talk about the things that are most important to you. I'm not sure who you go out and have conversations with around bettering your health and bettering your finances. But at the end of the day, you got to talk to somebody. So why not allow it to be us and other people that are like-minded? Join the group, Health and Wealth for Business, for busy professionals, over there on Facebook, and connect with us, guys. We want to be able to help you. All right, cool. On to our quick ad from our sponsors today.
That's right. You ready to level up your style? The Good Life Visual Audio Podcast Store just dropped its first piece of merch. With our exclusive Follow the Money t-shirt, it's not just clothing, it's a statement of your commitment to mastering your health and wealth. So be part of the movement and get yours today. Just visit the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast using the link in our descriptions. And remember to always follow the money. This days is far more relevant than I like to admit. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Far more relevant. That's why you guys got to go cop the shirt. Because that's right. There it is. Show it to them. Show it to them. Follow the money. It's at the store. Go to our shop. Go ahead and pick one of those up, because it'll show that you know what's going on. You're not out of the loop. You're in the loop. You know that money is running so much of what we deal with on a daily basis. So if you just follow the money, you'll get to some of your answers. Go ahead, grab a shirt from us, rock it, wear it, so that people know that you know really what's running stuff around here. Outside of God, right? Outside of God.
That's right.
You got to follow the money. You got to follow the money.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
Another episode. Another episode.
Another episode. That's right. Hey, let's dive into our next segment we call Shop Talk.
Shop Talk. Dun, dun, dun.
We just got to get the head movement as the actual like graphic. There we go. We've been seeing a ton of injuries both on the NFL side and the NBA side. Those of you that, again, have been following the sports world, we always like to say we're communicating to you out there that are corporate athletes. You might have been in athletics. You might train like an athlete, train your body like an athlete. You might train your mind like an athlete, right? You might be actually the ones that are going out there into the corporate world and pursuing goals and pursuing dreams and pushing yourself to a level as a athlete would. So we call you corporate athletes. But on the professional athletic side, we've been seeing a lot of injuries. There's been a bunch of stuff happening.
A ton of injuries. We've got and particularly really interesting injuries. You see a lot of the same things happen. Aaron Rodgers with the Achilles tear, Nick Chubb with like the multiple ligament tear in his knee. And, you know, now obviously that's a little bit more of a freak accident. Kirk Cousins, Achilles, right? Kyler Murray, knee. Matthew Stafford, knee. Kyrie Irving, foot. Steven Adams, knee. Devin Booker, ankle. Right. I think these are super interesting. And you don't just see them in 2023, but you also see, if you look at the last, honestly, decade or so, it's kind of been a gradual progression up. I think it's worth paying attention to. And, you know, I'll throw out one or two reasons, I think, and then see what your thoughts are. Like, because you were an athlete, you are an athlete. And you watch, or you're at least interested in athletics and know kind of what's going on. Mm-hmm. From the health side of things, I look at it and I'm like, man, it's really important I look at people like Victor Wembanyama, what he's been doing with his trainer, LeBron, what he's been doing for years, and as they progress through their career. Tom Brady, probably, one of the top examples as well as he progressed through his career. You can see these dudes literally like reverse age as they're playing and exerting themselves at the most elite level. How are they doing that? A couple of things, and I'll go ahead and make some more content on this later. But number one, I think it's their level of actually nourishing, rehydrating, repairing, and going ahead and actually detoxing on a cellular level. Because when you have a healthy tissue, when you have tissue that's malleable but also holds its structure, because we're mostly water, when you see a cell, right? Well, what is a cell wall? How does it hold its structure? And then how do things move in and out of the cell, right? It's all hydration of the muscles and providing the right minerals to open certain channels. And when that's the case at the cellular level and obviously at the tissue level, then you're going to have the ability to not only avoid injury, but recover from injury quicker. I think that's playing a huge role. So, and that comes from what we drink and what we eat, right? And number two, I think it's also the exposure to unnatural movement patterns that will be in the game itself. When you see people training, and this is what I've been on recently, like trying to really get this across. When you see people training like bodybuilders, they're not training to actually perform the activities that they want to perform. Whether you're a corporate athlete, you don't need those movements, or you're a sports athlete. And I think that's what's happening here. And you see people, athletes changing their training style as a result. So I think we can learn from this as corporate athletes in the sense of like, how do you keep your body performing at a high level, and obviously supporting your mind to perform at a high level. Well, stop training like a bodybuilder, number one, and make sure that you're eating food and consuming liquids that are hydrating you at the cellular level, nourishing you at the cellular level, repairing, and also detoxing at the cellular level. If you don't know how to do that, that's why we're here, and you can reach out.
That's huge. That's huge. And I think there's another that's great. And I really think that it's a mindset thing of how people, athletes specifically, are treating what they do for work. Like how high is this on your priority? You mentioned a couple people like a LeBron, right, or a Tom Brady. The way that they paid attention to their health, their fitness, the way their body, they actually took at it like a student. Like they learned, they knew how important this was, and then they started to course correct. Understand, like, again, we're talking to corporate athletes out there, but even in the actual professional sports world, many of these guys just think this is a job. Right? I'll never forget, like, I heard this that, there's so many like professional athletes, specifically like NFL people, that like that's not their passion. They're just really good. They're just really good at this. They have the right height. They've been playing for a very long time. It was the natural next step after college, the natural next step that they just continued to go down this path. They saw it as a financial windfall for them. It's like, hey, well, if I do get drafted, I get a chance to get into the league, right? Make my, $300, $400, $500,000, whatever it is, minimum contract, or potentially go more. But they're not really thinking about how to maximize their potential, how to push their body, how to make sure things are actually in line, because they treat it like a job. They treat it like, hey, I'm good now. I'm just showing up. I like what I do. It feels fun. I get to travel, all that stuff. But this isn't like my passion. This is not what I feel like I was destined to do. So I'm not going to like take it as serious. I remember hearing stories of like Kobe saying like, I would watch people, my teammates show up 10 minutes before practice and then leave as soon as practice is over. Right? Those types of things make you see like, oh, people look at this like it's a job. Like it's just something that like pays the bills and I get things done. But like the Tom Brady's and the LeBron Jameses, they know this is their life. This is their career. This is what they're destined to do. So they take a higher, they put more stake in their body and the things that are important that are going to keep them moving. So same thing for all of us that are corporate athletes. Do you just look at your life like a job? You might be good. You might be a high income earner. You might make 180, $275,000 a year just because you got the right training, you got the right education, your parents came from it, you're good at that. But are you really treating this like you could be great at this and this is what you're destined to do? So therefore, it makes sense to pay attention to all these other areas, our health, our finances, all those. Like, if it's not important to you, if that's not what you think you're going to go do for the long term, then it makes sense why you're not maybe paying attention to it as much. So again, our encouragement for all of you that are striving, that are pushing, that say, hey, this is something I can be great at. Let's make sure we're looking at all the angles. Let's make sure we're paying attention and actually being students of what we do and what we consume and all those things, so that we can put ourselves in the best position to go and design the life that we don't need to break from, whether you're a corporate athlete or you're an actual athlete over there on the court.
That's right.
Still got to
the thing is, it almost like shouldn't really matter, because especially thinking about corporate athletes, like, even if you that's literally your life, right? Do you want to live a better life in terms of physically, mentally, et cetera? And people treat it, it is kind of wild when you think about it, because people treat it kind of like, let me burn the candle at both ends, work really hard. And then because I work really hard, enjoy it really hard, and both things are depleting me, nothing is ever recharging me. Right. So the things that I think are even recharging me, playing really hard, actually don't recharge. They're both on this, speaking of quadrants, right, which is going to be our conversation for today. Speaking of our quadrants, they're both on the left side of the quadrant, high intensity, but depletes you. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They're high intensity, high energy requirements, work hard, play hard. That's all hard. Mm-hmm. When you recover, when do you recharge? When do you replenish? When do you, right? And that's kind of what's going on, both when you look in the nutrition side of things, and also, definitely on the wealth side of things, man. But hey, that might be a whole nother episode on itself. So it
might be. You're right. But either way, pay attention to the energy you're exerting, making sure that you are continuing to stay healthy and be able to push your life forward in the right direction. So our next segment for today is our 2x2. 2x2. That's right. In our 2x2, now it's time to really give some tips and advice to entrepreneurs and business owners. Today, our topic is know thyself. Know thyself, understanding what's important to you. This is going to dovetail directly into what we're talking about in the show, but specifically for this 2x2 segment, really we're talking about, how do you understand yourself? What is your actual outcome? For people that get into business, again, we're speaking to entrepreneurs and business owners and people that are heading down that path. One of the things that we know is incredibly important is you understanding yourself. How do you operate? What's important to you? What are your outcomes? Where are you headed? And by understanding yourself, you can understand then maybe which directions you start to take in your business, right? Kabi, what are your thoughts around this? Knowing thyself, understanding who you are as an entrepreneur, as a business owner.
Yeah, man. If your brain is super analytical and kind of like process based and step-by-step based, then this is the way I look at it at times. And it's, utilizing every opportunity possible, meaning every outcome, right? Every piece of data you get from something that goes on in your life, whether it goes really well and you're happy or you fail at it. You gather information to learn about what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at, how you learn, right? The best practices, et cetera. And then you put all those things together. So later, figure out, gotta keep you on your toes.
I know.
Later, figure out how you're going to proceed when presented with opportunity again. And when you work that way, you leverage your most important asset, time, to your benefit rather than against you.
That's huge. And that's, again, one of the keys to us designing the life that we don't need a break from is really being able to understand what the outcome is, where we're headed, what it is that we bring to the table, so that we can kind of work on our strengths. One of the things we talk about in entrepreneur world is working on your strengths, like continuing to work towards the things that you know you're already good at. You can always shore up some of the things that you're not great at, or surround yourself with people that you're not, that do the things that you're not great at. But at the end of the day, it's really knowing yourself and knowing what it is that you're good at, knowing what it is that you bring to the table, and then what you're striving to get after. And I think the more that we can, as entrepreneurs, focus on those things, the more we put ourselves in a position to really be able to flourish in our lives. So knowing yourself is incredibly important. It's incredibly important.
No, it's not. No,
it's not. Not at all.
No,
maybe
don't worry about it, man.
Maybe just a little bit. Anyways. Next segment. Why you mad, coach? Why you mad? There's a lot of noise in this world, and somebody's got to call it out. So luckily for us, coach hates the noise. So coach, tell us, why you mad this week, man?
Listen, I don't know why you're asking me that question. Like I'm always mad. Like I always got something.
Because you are.
Like I'm always irritated or something. Okay.
Angry African man.
Oh, wow. Let the truth come out. We play on the stereotypes. My brother. I do juju on you. On you.
No juju. No juju.
Are we done here? Are we finished?
Listen, I'm trying to understand why you're mad, man. I'm just trying to help you get things off your chest, because I know you're mad.
I'm mad because, quite honestly, there's people like you out here in the world who are aiming to bring people down, and I'm not about it, guys. So, guys, today I'm bringing positivity. I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm not going to be upset. I'm just going to show you how to take the higher road, and that's the way to do it. And that's my segment today for Why You Mad, Coach. There. How you feel about that?
I don't feel satisfactory at all. I feel like you have some anger deep inside of you. And maybe we can turn this into a therapy session for a little bit, because if you just have to get it out, right? Suppression is never good. When you suppress that anger, sir, when you push things down, a great orator of Jerry Seinfeld on the Seinfeld show, Kramer, I think one time said, Kramer said, serenity now, insanity later, right? So
we're out here quoting Kramer now. That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
Kramer.
We're quoting Kramer. So if you got to get something out, get it out. But maybe this is the week that you just don't have a lot to get out.
I'm happy. I'm good.
Listen. Good. I appreciate you. And everything that you bring to the show, sir. And all your opinions are valid and valued. I hear you and I see you. Just so you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're pissing me off.
On to another sponsor break for us today.
That's right. Are you a busy professional looking to level up your health and performance? Look no further than our sponsor, Cut the Noise. They offer personalized nutrition, tailored movement programs, and stretch management techniques to help you look, feel, and perform at your best. And here's the best part. You can join their end of the year wellness challenge, access their app, and become part of their community for not much longer. But for $1, don't miss out. Comment CTN90 and we will set you up for success.
CTN90, $1. Let's go. Let's get into the show. Not for long. We got you.
Not for long.
Depending on when you're listening to this, you might have already missed the boat. You don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know. You might have missed it.
Tough.
But hopefully you see this and you get on board for $1, and make sure that you get your health in the right place. All right. So dive into the show. Our topic, man, this is a good one. This is something that I've spent a lot of years talking about and diving into with people, because I don't always know that people understand the concept or understand exactly what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about when he talked about the cash flow quadrant. For those of you that don't know, Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Somewhere in that book, he talks about the cash flow quadrant. He wound up writing a second book.
Negative. Oh, yes. Sorry. I was like, no, he wrote a whole nother book. What are you talking about?
But he mentions it. He mentions
it. He did mention it. You're right.
He mentions it in Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Bro. I'm sorry, man.
Thank you.
I got to apologize in public. You know what I'm saying? I cut you off.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? You're a capable host. You do your job. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Do your thing, brother.
Listen.
See, hey, you got to admit when you're wrong.
That's right. Listen. I appreciate you for that. But yes, Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read it, make sure you read it. Inside of there, he mentions this thing called the Cashflow Quadrant. Then he goes on to elaborate on it by writing another book, writing an entire book on this thing called the Cashflow Quadrant. Some of you may have seen it. If not, you'll probably see something right here. We'll put it up in the screen, a little image of it. You might have seen this ESBI type of diagram, but we're going to break it down for you today because it's important for all of us and all of you that are on the journey of designing the life you don't need to break from and getting to the good life, that you understand this. The cash flow quadrant, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about it, is the only 4 ways that we make money in our society. In our society, there's 4 ways to bring in income into our society. And because we are teaching you how to get to the good life, or right, helping you craft those ideas and those plans of how to get to the good life, well, income and how you make your money is probably one of the most important things to pay attention to when it comes to building some forms of wealth or designing the life you don't need to break from. So we're going to break those things down for you in these next few moments about how we make money. And we're going to start in each quadrant and kind of go through and talk about some of the pros and cons and talk about some of the mindsets and just where people's mindsets are around these quadrants, what mindsets you need to be successful in these quadrants. We'll talk about those things. But as a quick overview, before I toss it over to my partner, the 4 quadrants, the 4 areas that we need to, or that we make income in our society is 1, the employee quadrant, the E quadrant, we call it, an employee, trading your time for money. Number 2 is self-employed, the S quadrant, meaning you kind of bought yourself a job, right? You really are self-employed, meaning it's all around you. The B quadrant is the business owner quadrant, typically saying you have a system that runs your business. This is big businesses. And then you have the I quadrant, which is an investor. That's when your money makes you money. Those are the 4 ways that we make money in our society: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. We're going to start with the employee quadrant because that's probably what most people are familiar with, probably gets the most traction. People know a lot about it. But let's start by hearing your thoughts on this cash flow quadrant and specifically this E quadrant, sir.
Yeah, this E quadrant, the pros obviously is security. And I don't think we can underestimate that. Sometimes it can be a really good thing. You show up to work, you exchange your time and your skills, ideally higher your skills, the more money you get for the time that you give up. And when you go home and you get, hopefully you have some benefits, etc. But you don't take on the risk of the business. If the business goes down, you find a different job at a different business. So there's a lot of good parts to it. This conversation might seem like it's going to slant in one way. And, we have our opinions, but at the same time, let's not ignore that there are some pros to this. Obviously, based on how you position yourself, it could be a really good thing. But for most people, I would say it's probably you're limited in your upward trajectory. Those would be my thoughts.
Absolutely. Listen, we're all familiar with the E quadrant. Most of us come out of our adolescent life thinking about having a job, having some form of employment. You get a first job when you're 14, 15, 16, depending on what age you are. Maybe some of you were 10. Maybe some of you were 18 when you got your first job. Who knows? But probably somewhere in those teenage years, the first thing we were programmed with was go get yourself a job, right? My first job was a grocery bagger at a grocery store, right? I bagged groceries. My next job was I was a lifeguard as a summer, like for the summer. Those are jobs. You trade your time for money. That's what that says. You give up 40 hours of your life, they give you back a paycheck. I know it sounds kind of grim. Here's what makes it sound even more grim. You give up 1 hour of your life, they give you $20 back. Right? So your 1 hour of your life is worth $20. I know I'm making it sound grim, but again, that's kind of what it is. You're giving up this time in exchange for a paycheck. It really isn't based on your skill set. It can be. The higher up you go, right? Obviously, they've jobs have created some forms of barriers of entry, so to speak, right? You got to have a master's degree, you got to have a bachelor's degree, right? You got to have some experience in this, and then they kind of let you in the door.
Name some example of the job. They got for a lot of people like like engineering and that type of, you can be a highly paid job.
Sure. You can get to exactly. It's not a horrible thing that we're talking about, because again, that's a way that you make income. And that's the way that the majority of Americans make income, in all honesty. It's through having some form of employment. There's you show up, you
NFL player. It's NFL. Job.
That's again, we just talked about athletes. We just talked about athletes, right? They are high paid professional employees. They work for the NFL. They work for the NBA. Like, they work for the company, the conglomerate that pays their check, that pays their salary.
Yep.
Not saying you can't make money doing it.
No. And I think these conversations can usually slant, yeah, but most of the time, I'll say this: nobody that's giving you a job is going to pay you more than you make them. That well, if they do, you're probably not going to be in business for too much
right.
longer.
Exactly.
All right. Well, okay, so let's keep this going though, because we got to get to the interesting ones, right? So that's job. It's pretty clear, employee. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. It is what you make of it, and hopefully, the way society is set up right now, it's get the best form of job or employee status that you can after your first, 18 plus, more than 18, 22, right, out of college.
Sure.
So try to make the most you can. The next one, though, self-employed. I think this is where things get interesting, where there's a little bit of overlap, but still some differences.
Absolutely. So what are some examples of being self-employed?
Oh, great choice. Real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you don't have a job, because you ain't guaranteed anything. You're not trading your time. You're what would you say you're trading as a real estate agent? Because it's not your time.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a service, right? Like you're putting yourself.
But you're not paid based on time. It's kind of my point.
Right.
You're paid based on transaction.
Correct.
So you're self-employed.
Correct. That's one example of it, right? You're trading basically a service, right? A transaction, a service. That is the way that you get paid. But there's lots of examples of that too. Think of every small business that we talk about small businesses. Think of every small business. You're a hairdresser, right? You run a salon. You're a hairdresser that runs a salon. You're a barber that runs a barber shop. You run a small food truck, right? You're in there cooking. You run a small restaurant. You any business. You run a landscaping business. You have a photography business. You choose to go off and have a jumper business, right? I know somebody that sets up jumpers for people, meaning like those big playhouses and things. Those are all forms of small business, right? But I mean, honestly, before we jumped on this on the recording, we were talking about buying businesses, small businesses, right? Like people that have things. There's another side that sometimes people don't think about, is the high paid self-employed person, the doctor that runs their own practice, the surgeon that has their own practice, the dentist that has their own practice, the attorney that has their own practice and firm, right? Like, these are high paid professionals that can be self-employed, because if you run your own practice, you are required to be there. Take the dentist. The dentist runs their practice. They get out of school, they get a bunch of debt. They say, hey, I can do this. I don't want to do this for a network of dentists. I'm just going to open up my own practice. So I'm going to hire a receptionist. I'm going to hire some billers. I'm going to hire a couple, what are the nurses called in the dentist side? They're called
dental hygienist.
Dental hygienist. I'm gonna hire 3 or 4 dental hygienists. I'm gonna have 7 employees, 7 staff, and then I'm the dentist. Well, guess what? If the dentist doesn't actually show up when he has patients, that office makes no money. People will stop showing up because the dental hygienist, the biller, the assistant, those people, they're not dentists. They can't do the work that the dentist would actually do. They might do some form of it, but they can't do the actual work. So that dentist is required to be in that building in order for that business to run. That is the definition of being self-employed. You, the person, Robert Kiyosaki calls it the smart person. S stands for smart, right? Like you're the smartest person in the building, and the business revolves around you and your expertise, your knowledge, your level of schooling. That is what the business is based around. No one else has that. So because of that, you kind of bought yourself a job, right? Like you can't really take a break. You can't, if you take a vacation, no one's there to step in for you. No one can keep running the business the same way. So those are some of the downsides. What are your thoughts on the self-employed side?
It's very common. You know, I think there's some excellent self-employed opportunities out there. You just kind of do weigh your pros and cons. You know, if you can get into a dentistry practice without a high debt threshold, it could do you really good, right? And same thing with, let's say, an attorney, right? But there's also a limit to this, and then that's when people start to bleed over or look over to the right side of the quadrant, which are business owners and investors. So let's go with business owners.
Absolutely. And just so we make this distinction, again, it was up on the screen. Ash, pop it back up there on the screen so people get this visual of this ESBI side. ES is on the left side, BI is on the right side of this quadrant. Yeah. And Robert Kiyosaki says in the book, one of the hardest things to do is go from the S to the B quadrant, from the lower left to the upper right. Like, how do we get over to that other side? And in our society, there's a big misconception. People don't know that there's a difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. Some people that are self-employed call themselves business owners.
That's true.
Right? And they think they are. But here's the thing, a self-employed person doesn't have the time. They can't get back their time. They are required to be there in order for that business to run. So it doesn't matter how much money they make. You could be a high-paid surgeon that runs your own practice, and you could make $700,000 a year. But if you didn't actually do a surgery for 6 months, you would lose money. You bought yourself a job, right? Like you won't get your time back. You can make a lot of money, but you're not going to be able to get that time because you're required to be there. Big difference. Self-employed, upper quadrant, business owner. A business owner means, in Robert Kiyosaki's definition, you own a system and that system runs your business. Therefore, you could walk away from your business. You could take yourself out, remove you from your business, come back to it a year later, and it could be doing better than how you left it. You could have more revenue. You could have more clients. You could have more staff because the system is what was running your business. It wasn't depending on you, your knowledge, your expertise, your presence, your hours. That's not what a business owner is. Again, Robert Kiyosaki calls the B quadrant big business. Big business. Think of all the big businesses you know. Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Jeff is not in the day-to-day running Amazon.
Oh, shoot, we went real big, huh?
Big business. Let's go the biggest. Let's go the biggest. So they
sure. As long as we come back, like
we'll come back down.
Amazon, you know what I'm saying?
We'll come back down. But again, like, so you have a visual and have a picture of like, oh, we all know that Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon. Like we all know that. But we also know that he's not the one delivering your packages and he's not the one answering the calls. He's not the one running the website. He's not the one doing any of the fulfillment, none of the stuff. He's not involved at all. And Amazon continues to grow.
Are we sure about that? Are we sure Jeff Bezos isn't answering the phone at Amazon?
We are. I am 99.9% sure that someone
I was just asking.
that someone that calls into Amazon is not getting Jeff Bezos on the line.
All right. I was just making sure.
99.9%. But again, he's allowed to step outside of his business and the business can still grow regardless of him being there or not.
Wow. Truly awesome.
That is business ownership. That is what it means to be a business owner. Why don't people get to that side? What do you think? What are your thoughts as to why people either don't get there or why there's confusion about how to get there?
Well, Christopher, I'm glad you asked. I believe the reason why people do not migrate from the E for employee, S for smart self-employed, to B as a business owner is threefold. One would be not seeing it as a possibility because they think it means owning Amazon. Two would be not understanding the mechanisms to own a system. And three would be capital. Those would be my three top.
Those are all solid. Those are all solid reasons. Take your first one, which was what? Not seeing that it could.
Yeah,
they
don't see it as a possibility because they're like, I'm never gonna own Amazon.
Right. So again, when you think of it in that manner of like, hey, I probably won't build an Amazon or a Facebook or a Tesla or any of the big businesses, but the question is, can you put a system in place to do something outside of what you feel like is possible? I'm sure, and I know this because again, people have these conversations all the time. I'm sure that like people that start big businesses don't start it off thinking it's going to be as big as it gets. Right?
For some for sure. But I want to take a couple steps back here because I think the big distinction is it's not big business merely because of its size. I think the big distinction is that you don't work in it. So it could be a business that makes $100,000-$200,000 a year in profit. That's not necessarily big business, but if you don't work in it and you own that cash flow, it fits in this quadrant.
Very good. Very true.
And I think that's very important to make that distinction for somebody who's listening, because that is exactly the reason why some people may be like, well, I can never get into that category. Well, you can, because there are very boring businesses out there that can be purchased for money that some people that are in the E quadrant and some people and a lot of people that are in the S self-employed quadrant can get up $100,000 or less to acquire cash flow of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 that they don't work in.
That's right. You're 1,000%. You're 1,000% right. And again, that's why the word is really around systems. It's really around how are you able to create systems that don't involve your expertise, your knowledge, you as a person, right? Like, or purchase, right? Those systems.
Yeah.
That's
I think
really
the people that are sorry, man. I think the people that are actually in the best position are people who do have high incomes but don't have time, that can create a vision and move some of that money over to purchase streams of income that eventually allow them to buy back their time.
Sure. Sure.
I think those are people in best positions, surgeons, doctors, lawyers, etc., and highly paid employees.
I think you're 100% right. Partly, though, I will also say I don't know that those people have the vision
Well, sure. Well, that's
to
an
do it,
opinion. Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I think they have the capital, which
yeah.
is
They're in the
one,
best position in that way.
exactly, and they need to
Right.
find the people that have the ability to manage a system.
Sure. And that may be the case, but there's also obviously some that have done that, right?
Sure.
There's I know a dentist, an attorney, and I'm not quite sure what this guy does. He might be an engineer who own several businesses. One owns a Subway, the other owns several like barbershop, like Olympic hair, like those
Sure.
chain barbershops,
Like
right?
cuts, what's it called? Sports clips or sports
Sports
cuts.
clips. That's
Yeah,
sports
whatever
clips,
it's called.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so he left his practice and now has completely replaced his income and is now full-time investor, right? So a lot of what we talk to comes down to mindset, vision, etc. But for this particular purpose in this discussion, if you are in that position, perhaps this will be the conversation to start stirring something in you to say, well, I have good income and I don't have time. Maybe I can start to look at something like this, whether it's through partnership,
Yeah.
whether it's through you putting in a little extra something, but
And I think that's a
at
huge
least
point.
plant the seed.
That's a huge point. You said partnership. That's exactly where my mind was going, because I feel like we're talking to the people that maybe have some capital, the high paid, the attorney, the dentist, that person. I'd be curious, engineer. I'd be curious to ask in general those people that you do know how they got introduced to it. If they
Mm-hmm.
if they went off if they went off to be able to like say, okay, you know what? Let me research this. Let me research what it's like to be able to, start a Subway or get another franchise or whatever. Or if somebody approached them about it, because a
Sure.
lot of because a lot of times there's a broker, there's somebody that's like, hey, you're high paid, like we got this opportunity over here. I know you don't know much about this, all you know is dentistry, but you got $100,000 set aside. Here's what we can do with it. And they just are assisting them in getting into that space of being now the business owner, the franchisee owner, whatever the case is. I feel
Right.
like that happens a lot. But here's the other side to it. For all of you that are listening that are not the money, you're not the high paid professional. You just have, if you have an idea of systems, if you know how to manage, if you're the manager, I talk about a book a lot called The E Myth. The E Myth, it stands for the entrepreneurial myth. It's by Michael Gerber. It's a great book. But in the book,
Revisited.
yeah, there we go. The E Myth Revisited. Very good.
Make sure you get to revisit it.
That's right. Very good. The E Myth Revisited. One of the main points that he makes is there's this three-headed monster in entrepreneurship, or like building a business or being an entrepreneur. You need the technician, you need the manager, and you need the entrepreneur, right? You need all three of those things to run it. So the technician is the person that knows how to do what they're doing. If you open up a pizza shop, do you have somebody that makes pizza? Like, it would be smart if you had somebody that was really good at making pizza and they understood how ovens worked and all those things. That's the technician. Then you have the manager. The manager is the one that puts systems in place, that oversees systems, that has things where they say, okay, here's the flow of how we get to profit. That becomes the manager part of things. And that's a skill set. Not everyone has that. And then the third is the entrepreneur. It's the person that sees the vision, that sees up ahead, that is at the helm of the ship and says, hey, you know what? There's an iceberg up ahead. Let's go this direction. Let's turn this direction. They're the ones kind of guiding what's happening, but they might not know how to make a pizza at all, right? They might not have ever even eaten a pizza before, but they know how to steer the ship. All three of those people are needed. Okay. The technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. Maybe you're the manager. Maybe we're talking to the manager. Maybe you've managed some companies. Maybe you've been in corporate America long enough that you understand some systems. You've been to some big companies. I got a good friend. We might get him on the podcast coming up very, very soon.
Uh-oh.
Right? Might get him to come on the podcast really soon to
Let's go.
share his experience. But that's who he was. He was the manager. He's been in corporate systems for the majority of his working career. Worked his way up in, enterprise, worked his way up in other companies where there are big systems in place. So he understands how to manage it. Then what he did was he took his skill set and attached it to the entrepreneur. He said, listen, I'm the manager, but I'm not the entrepreneur, but you are. So let me use my skills to help us go build something. And that might be you. The person that's listening, you might be the person that's the manager. You just understand systems. You know how to manage people. You know how to put a schedule together. You know how to send out emails. You know how to say, hey, we got to pay attention to this. We got to do inventory on this side. We got to look at this. That might be you. Well, then maybe you just need to attach yourself to the entrepreneur, to the person with the money, to say, hey, listen, I can run this thing. I can run this deal over here because I know how to manage people. I know how to manage systems. You have the money. Let's go into partnership and let's build this thing together. There's so many ways for you to get into business ownership, to be able to own a system that runs the business. I think that sometimes we don't even think about it. We're not using our brain, our logical brain, to be like, I have this skill set. Let me go find the person with this skill set and let's come together. But that's what's needed to be a true business owner. And like Kabi said, it doesn't have to be an Amazon size. It can just be something that is a service to others, that has a great product, whatever it might be. And from that point, you bring some form of expertise in management. Someone else brings some expertise in entrepreneurship. Someone else brings the money. Then you hire some technicians. Boom, you got yourself a business. And eventually, you can move yourself out of that where that system's running the business. So
Yeah.
I love to be quiet.
A great example of that is this guy, real estate wise, is someone who, let's say commercial real estate, right? Somebody who knows how to manage the property. They have expertise, right? They've done it for a while. They know how to add value. They know how to maintain low vacant rate. They know how to kind of put systems in place to have the thing function smoothly. So you are getting your revenue each and every month. There's this guy, Ken McElroy. I think that's how he made his career. He had extensive knowledge in terms of operations of a large apartment complexes and commercial properties. And he later was able to pair that up with, investors and entrepreneurs. So in this case, he's the manager and the technician in a way, right? Mm-hmm. So he paired up with people like Robert Kiyosaki and just started buying insane amounts of property and doing all types of things with them. But he was the person that would run things, right? Yeah. And obviously technicians in terms of actually carry out his vision. So maybe he was more so the manager, actually.
Yeah, that's the key
of the business. Yeah. So I think it's very important. It's very, very important.
That's right.
Well, everybody knows it's important, but to draw your attention to maybe where you fit in the puzzle, right? So that you can pair with the right people to make the vision a reality.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, that last quadrant, guys, the investor quadrant, is when your money makes you money, where you actually aren't any of those things. You're not the entrepreneur. You're not the manager. You're not the technician. You just have money. You have capital. You just have capital, and you're just like, I don't have a vision for this thing. I don't want to be hands-on at all. I don't even know how to do this. But I have the capital. So as long as this gets me a return, we're in a good spot. And that's where most people try to get to. As I sit down with people financially, then probably one of the top two things I hear, it might be the number one thing that I hear is I want my money to make money for me.
Mm,
It's probably the number one thing I hear, probably.
really?
I want my money to make money for me. We all know the concept, right? We all know the concept of I have this and I would like to allow it to make money for me. Okay. Here's something that many of you, and again, this is my interpretation. Could be, I'd be curious to hear yours, but like this is how I interpret this cash flow quadrant, the I side, the investor. It's really the accredited investor that he's talking about. It's really
Mm,
the you have $250,000 or more liquid and you can invest it so that brings you a return. Sometimes what I feel and what I see is that people think being an investor means I put $400 a month away somewhere. I put $500 a month away somewhere and that money makes me money. I got this extra $7,000. I got this extra $15,000 and that money makes me some money. That's such a that those are that's a small term investor. That's not the quadrant investor that brings you wealth. What I call the investor quadrant is what I call midterm investments. Those of you that have been following the podcast or you listen to me, I always say this, you have short, mid and long-term investments. Your midterm is your 2 to 10 year investment where you're dealing in different asset classes, real estate, commodities, equities, fixed income, lending money, right? Or cash. Having a hefty 5, 6, or 7-figure investment inside of a midterm investment is the thing that makes you the investor where your money makes you money. If you have $70,000 and you drop it on a property or a piece of land, and over the next 5 years, you sell that property or sell that land, which you paid 70,000 for, and it brings you back 700,000, that is being an investor. That's when your money makes you money. I saw Kabir's eyes, so let's just use 70,000 to 200,000 over 5 years.
I'm
That's a
like,
little bit
man,
better.
what did we
That's
find gold?
that's a
What
little bit
happened?
that's a little bit better for you, right? Again, it's just getting a return. 4 times your money, 5 times your money, 3 times your money. Those are the things that take you into the investor quadrant. But if you're putting away $1,000 and you want to turn it into 2,000, you're not in the investor quadrant. That's a nice profit. That's a nice flip. You got a good return, but that's not the thing that's building wealth for you because it's such a small amount. If you keep doing that, if you go 1,000 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 60, right? If you keep doubling it and it takes you 10 years, 12 years, 15 years to do it with that little bit of money, sure. But the best midterm investments, I'll say it again, the best midterm investments are a hefty 5 or 6-figure investment. Sometimes you can get to a 7-figure investment depending on where you are. But a hefty 5 or 6-figure investment is what puts you into the in the investor quadrant where your money actually makes you money, like real money. Anything before that, you're dabbling in being an investor. You're not in the investor quadrant. You're just dabbling in what it means to put your money and get a return. So I want people to be clear that the BI side, business owner and investor, that's where all the wealth is built. That's where all the time freedom is. That's where all the financial freedom is. That's where all of the life free, like the personal freedom is. It's on the BI side. But you got to have some things going. You either need specialized knowledge, you either need to have some type of amazing skill set, or you need capital to play on the BI side. So if you're not there yet, that's what I would encourage you to go get. If you want to play on the BI side, you want to get away from the ES, the employee and self-employed side, get yourself a major skill set, partner with someone that, again, can create some systems if you're not the system person, or stay in the E or S side, build your capital reserves, and then use your capital over on the BI side to really make your dreams come true. Those are my
Yep.
thoughts.
Well, gosh darn it, you don't took all the thoughts, because
Well,
that's the game. Overall, that's the game. And we talk about, I think you explain it very well. You break it down into steps very well. And it's just a matter of kind of figuring out where you are. So, you and I have talked about it quite a bit, but the cash flow game. And
mm,
in the cash flow game, which highly recommend everybody and anybody that's in Southern California that wants to play, hit me up. I want to start a cash flow club down here. We'll play on weekends. I'm a game nerd. I need to find my people, actually.
bro,
Um,
go to meetup.com. I'm pretty sure when I was in Southern California, I found one. I found a cash flow club on meetup.com. It was,
nah, you're lying, bro.
I swear to you, it was 80% Asians. We met at a Denny's. I forget what
Boy.
I forget what city we were in. It was 80% Asians. We met at Denny's. I went like 2 or 3 times. They had Cashflow 101 and they had a separate table if you wanted to play the 202 side. So there's a lot of people out there that would want to play that game. You got to
All right.
connect with your
Say
tribe.
less. I'm gonna have to try it out. I'm gonna have to try it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it, games like that because I feel like I could apply it pretty quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it really comes down to kind of figuring out first and foremost, um, when you look at your game card for cash flow, right? You're having income coming in that's purchasing assets, right? That gives you more income.
Right.
And for most of us, what we have is we have income coming in that's paying for liabilities and expenses.
Turns into expenses. That's right.
All right. So tough position. And quite honestly, I mean, I think it makes sense to be around people who are thinking like that because it is a shift as to how that works. And then taking that moves you over to the BNI if you buy the right assets.
Right. That's right.
I think what it does for me, man, is it makes it more sort of the whole thing more manageable to think on that level, right? Some people like to think on the day-to-day type level. I like to think on kind of like the big picture level.
Mm-hmm.
And really, so it's looking at it like, okay, well, how do I get income? Well, you trade what you have. Maybe you have more time now. Maybe you have skills now. Maybe you have, whatever it is that you have will put you either an employee or self-employed. And then you focus on making sure that you're living, you're managing your cash flow correctly to put you in a position to purchase this mid-tier. So or what do you call it? Mid-tier
Midterm.
investment?
Midterm. Yeah.
Midterm. That's right. Midterm. Right.
Right.
I bet at this point some people are thinking, "Yep, that's it. Just easy. Just go ahead and save up $100,000 or $200,000, or but I guess you said more of like 10,000, right? 10,000 to 100,000.
You want to get to, so when I say a hefty 5 figures, I think you want to be over 40,000, over 50,000 to really think about, like, again, we talked about it right before this. There are businesses you can buy for 10,000, for less than 10,000, for $15,000. Absolutely. There are. But the best midterm investments, in my opinion, are hefty 5 figure to 6 figure investments. Like, you got to have 40 grand set aside. You got to have 50 grand that you're willing to set aside. Like, you got to have that. And then here's the thing I didn't talk about, but it's incredibly important. I'll wrap on this one. You need a specialized knowledge. When I go through this financial plan for most people and how we're going to start breaking down investing, short term, 6 months emergency fund, long term, your retirement side, 401k, IRA, SEP IRA, cash value life insurance, your 20 to 25-year plan. Those two things you got to have set. You got to be putting it away there already. You got to be doing that. It's important for foundational standpoints. The midterm, here's really what you need. You need a specialized knowledge. You need to know something more than other people know in some area. whether it's in commodities, gold, oil, silver, chickens, oranges, corn, wheat, whatever. If you got a inside scoop on that, that's specialized knowledge. Real estate, commercial, land, fix and flip, buy and hold, wholesaling. Like you need a specialized knowledge. You can't just walk in and be like, ah, yeah, let's do this. You got to know something. You got to have done your research. Equities, stocks, bonds, the stock market, businesses, startup funding, venture capital. It's equity. You got to have a specialized knowledge around it. Not to mention the fixed income. This is something we don't get into, most people, but do you know how to lend money? If you accumulate a bunch of money, you can lend it out and just make money on lending it. But do you understand how to do that? Do you understand what platforms are there? Do you understand what the interest rates are? Do you understand how you would get your money back? Specialized knowledge. That's actually what you need to be able to get into the BI side. You need something that's a knowledge base that's different than everybody else. So my recommendation for all of you that are listening, build your short-term and long-term financially, work on your cash flow, build your short and long-term, and then work on your specialized knowledge, because it doesn't take money outside of getting a course, reading a book, paying for a coach, something like that. Outside of that, it doesn't take money to get specialized knowledge in an area. You could literally just watch YouTubes and read books all day long on real estate while you're building the capital in your short and long and making sure you're good. And then when you have 2 years, 3 years, 40 hours, 60 hours, 100 hours worth of knowledge, then you can take that money and invest it in a midterm investment like real estate or like, buying a business or something like that. But you need knowledge around it. The capital's good, but you really need to understand this is how this business makes money. And don't just rely on, this is a fault of a lot of people that just have the money. They rely on someone to tell them how the business makes money. I'm not focused on it. I got the money. I'm over here building some forms of wealth. I'm saving money. Things are good. I have this person come over and tell me, hey, did you know laundromats make money? Here's how they make money. They do ba, 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 ba. You can get streams of income this way, very low maintenance. You only got to fix the machines. We can update it a little bit. We put some extra coins in. We raise it 25 cents. You'll make this profit. You have someone telling you that. You look at a quick business plan. You look at a quick prospectus. You do a quick Google search. And after an hour or 2 hours of research, you think that you know that business. That's how people lose money all the time. Because they don't have a specialized knowledge around it. They didn't do their due diligence to get 20 hours worth of knowledge and worth of research on YouTube, reading books, talking to other people. They didn't do that due diligence. And that's how people lose money. So really the thing that I believe you need in that midterm investment is a specialized knowledge. And then if you have the capital, even better. Now you have knowledge and the money. Now you're good. Now you're good.
Game over.
Game over. Game over.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, brother. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, man. People need this. People need this because, again, back to as we kind of wrap this thing up, there's only 4 ways you're going to bring in income. That's it. We don't have a lot of options here. It's 4 ways. Employee, self-employed, business owner, investor.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to sit? Know thyself. What are your skill sets? What are your traits? What's your risk tolerance? How much money do you have? How much do you want to get a specialized knowledge in? What's the outcome? What are you trying to get to? Are you trying to have something that trickles in $1,000, a couple $1,000s a month? You trying to go off and sell something for, a 10x multiple so you can get out of the rat race completely? What's the goal? You got to know that about you first. Then you got to get a specialized knowledge around where you want to be. Then you got to start making strides towards that side. And hopefully that side is the BI side. Not saying there's anything wrong with the ES side. But for most people, I just said this on a webinar we did. Most people want some combination. When I sit down with people, most people want some combination of financial freedom, time freedom, and personal freedom. When you boil down what the goals are for people in life, it's some form of that. I want to make all the money that I want to and not have money be an issue. I would like to live my life with the time that I have, with the people that I have, with my loved ones. I want to be able to do those things freely and have time freedom to move about my life in the way that I want to, not being constricted by anything. And I'd like to have personal freedom. I like to break away from any of the beliefs or the limits that I've put on myself, any of the chains, any addictions, any things that I'm chained to. I want to be away from those things. Most people, when you boil down whatever their goals and dreams are, it's some form of those three things.
100%.
All those three things come on the BI side. Just depends what you want.
That's right, folks. Health and wealth, it really does boil down to that. That's why we do the show.
That's it.
But, I think it's important for you to hear from our last sponsor, though. Are you ready to take control of your finances and your life? Our sponsor, United Agency. Can we get the banner, please? Has you covered. That's right. Whether you're an individual, a family, or a business owner, they offer tailored solutions to elevate your financial journey. Best of all, they're currently offering free financial plans. Please don't miss out. Use the link in the description to get yours today.
That's right.
As we take it from there, brother, what is your last take for today's show? We got a lot there. Boil it down to like 90 seconds for the folks. Give them, give them like one thing. Give them like one thing, bro. What they got? One thing. What should they take?
Listen, I'll give you less than 90 seconds. You got to know where you want to be in this quadrant. You have to know what the end result is for what you're trying to build. And then once you understand that, you have to figure out which part of the quadrant is going to get you those things and head in that direction. If you know that you want to be a business owner where you own a system that runs your business, then you need to put all your time, energy, and effort into building a specialized knowledge to get that direction.
That's right.
If you know you want to be an investor, same thing. Self-employed, same thing. Employee, same thing. Because there's rules to building as an employee as well. There's rules to getting a good job. There's rules to climbing up the corporate ladder. There's a path to all these things. You got to know what you want to make happen. That's my last take, y'all.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Bro, my last take today is to keep it real simple, man. Keep it real simple. Boils down to know thyself. And we do that by not wasting any opportunities, whether it's a loss or a victory. We go back, we watch the tape, and we pull from that. And it allows us to know ourselves so that we can better ourselves. And not just in terms of being better or being a particular way that we're expected to be, but really make moves that lead us towards that freedom, that personal freedom, that financial freedom, right? And lead us in that direction. So, yeah, I think it's spot on right there. And that time, for me, time, location, freedom as well. All those things kind of matter. That's what I have on my board. That's what I'm working towards. That's what we're working towards is a family. That's what we're working towards is the TGL family. So, guys, tap in with us on Facebook. And we take it from there.
That's right.
We appreciate you guys. Let's get it, Detroit Lions. We thank you for your time this time. And until next time, peace.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Good Life.
If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to subscribe and like our channel.
If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please leave us a comment down below.
If you're listening to the podcast audio version, we appreciate you just as much. Thank you for tuning into The Good Life Show.
We believe that everyone has the potential to live their best life and we hope our show helps you get that one step closer to achieving your goal.
If you know someone who would benefit from our show, please share it with them, and thank you for your continued support.
That's it for another week's episode here on The Good Life. We'll see you next week for another inspiring conversation.